Hey guys, welcome to another episode of El Jefe's Shop Shop. This week we're working on the toyoace. So these are the original wheels on the toyoace. They're a 15-inch rim. They're pretty narrow, but they're only a really small tyre. It's about 26 or 28 inches tall, I can't remember. So we don't want this because it's too tiny and girly. So we got these. So these are Hilux rims. They're 16, split rim, 32-inch tyre, and they're really aggressive. And they look ridiculous on this thing. So that's the plan. Thanks. So it's been a few days since we worked on the toyoace. We're doing a lift kit now, so I went in and got some supplies. So we've got some 70 by 50 box section. Had to use a 20 by 50 and a 50 by 50. So I'm going to weld those together, put a plate on either end. There's our lifting blocks. And then I needed some longer U-bolts, which are the square type. Couldn't get them the day that I wanted them, so we ended up getting some 10mm plate and some long bolts. So the plan is to unbolt these, then the plate will be the top section. Bolt goes through, sits over the lifting block like that, and then the axle goes underneath, so the leaf spring's in here, sorry. So the leaf spring's in here, lifting block, and then the axle underneath, and then put the bolts on from the bottom. Alright, so we've got the front I-beam out of the truck here. As you can see, it's a massive, big thing. So the leaf spring used to run through here, and then this U-bolt used to go over the top of the leaf spring and hold it to the I-beam. So, don't need that. Getting a lift block. So lift block will go there, and then the leaf spring on top of that, and then the new top pad. So that should make it 2 inches taller. So Luke's just welding up the raising blocks, and I'm making these plates. So we drilled these out at Pete's house this morning, and then drilled the center hole so it sits on the pin, so it locates nicely. These are the new bolts. So once Luke's done those lifting blocks, I have to drill a hole in the top of them for that nut there, and then drill a hole in the bottom and put a bolt in to make a little pin on the bottom to go into the I-beam. So I'll show you that once we get there, but this is the new setup, and it'll give us a 2-inch lift, and then if we want more later we can just pull the bolts out, put a bigger block in, bolt it back in again. So Luke's finished up welding and grinding the lifting blocks, not lowering blocks. They're going that way, not that way, which looks wrong, but it's not. So now I'm just going to drill a hole on either side of each. So we're drilling a hole in the top that's nice and big so it can sit on the lug on the bottom of the leaf spring, just here. So it'll sit up, and then I have to drill a smaller hole in the bottom to put a bolt in, so we've got a little nipple to go into the I-beam, and then we can bolt it back together. So we've just got the lift block here all sorted out. So we've got a bolt in one side, hole on the other side, so this side goes up to the leaf spring, and then that sits out the bottom and goes into the I-beam. So we just got the toyoace back on the floor, done the 32s from the 28s to 32s, 2-inch suspension lift, 3-inch body lift, and it is huge compared to what it was when it got here. You can kind of see it's pretty big. Doesn't seem to be any clearance issues. We haven't done lock to lock yet, but there's plenty of room in here and plenty of room over there. So a huge bump, we might hit stuff, and full lock, we might hit stuff. But just cruising down the road, it's gonna look badass. Yes! So as you just saw, Max just dropped off the new engine for the toyoace. He delivers to all the eastern states and South Australia. He doesn't do WA, NT or Tasmania, but he does everywhere else. And he hand picks up and hand delivers everything. So definitely go onto him, get my ride towing. So here is the new engine for the toyoace. It is an LS, which, yeah, that's a choice that we've made. So it's an LS2, it's a 6-litre out of a VE Series 2, so it's the displacement on demand engine, so I'll have to get rid of that if I decide to modify it, or if the lift is shootout, which is apparently what they do. We've also got a Turbo 400, which is the 3-speed out of like a HQ type thing. So they bolt straight on, but you need a different flex plate, which we have inside, which I haven't shown on camera. So just a different flex plate to pick up on the converter bolts. So this is the new LS. So we just got the LS2 all unwrapped. It's now hanging from the crane and not the pallet, so that's good. It looks like everything's here. I got it from a guy in New South Wales called Ryan and his brother Brock, so thanks heaps to those guys. All the wiring's there, the loom, ECU, the fuse box out of the car, starter motor, all the hoses and everything that went to the radiator. And then we got the Turbo 400, which I bought separately but from the same guys, which is down here with the converter and the flex plate. And then I've got the new one inside, like I was saying before. Then it even came with the VE radiator, which is what I was after. This is a little broken, but it is there, so at least we can mock it up and then get another VE one or something like that, if need be. And then it also came with the aircon compressor, a box full of bolts, the entire intake, the accelerator pedal, and then all of this stuff is the scatter shield and the shifter and the oil cooler and everything for the transmission. So it's pretty much everything we need to put it into the car. Just got to get the loom thinned down and the ECU unlocked, and then it can go in pretty much with that flex plate that I've got. So that brings us to the next point, fuel. So we've got 2 kegs. They're very similar, they're a little bit different, but close enough. So we're going to run 2 kegs for the fuel. So they'll be mounted behind the cab in the tub. So there's 100 litres total, which will be plenty for 100 kilometres pretty much. So hopefully this fits. The LS1 fit, and this is no different. We just might have to take the coil packs off, mount them somewhere else, take the power steering off, take everything off, alternator, etc. So we'll see how we go. There is different mounts for the alternators and stuff if we get really stuck. Might have to turn them around, might have to put them on top. We'll see. So many things.
I helped.
You do one.
Yep.
Nice. So the other day we got under here and cut off the rivets, and then we moved them up here and put bolts in instead. So I've just ground back the rivets, and I'm hoping I can get the air chisel that I bought the other day and pop out the rest of the rivets. Doesn't really matter if they stay there, but I'll give it a go while I've got the tool out. And then if I awkwardly spin around, I've done the same for the engine mounts, which you can see the shiny spot on the chassis. So I just need to try and pop those rivets out as well, and then we have all of the room in the world that is available to us anyway for the LS. So let's get that happening. So this is the air ratchet I bought the other day. As you can tell, it's got a hell of an air leak. But it makes a horrible noise, which I'm about to subject you to, so maybe turn your volume down. Horrible. So that was a 2-second job, which is awesome. As you can see, I got a bit out of control, so I would suggest drilling a small hole in the middle of each rivet, and then you can get the point of the air chisel into it. Otherwise you sort of just bounce around, but it doesn't bother me. I'm just going to be using these for bolt holes if I can, or they'll just be left open, so it doesn't really matter. So now everything's out the way. These shackles look like they may be in the way, but we'll see how we go. The LS can go where I'm sitting, hopefully. So just here by myself today. Been messing around trying to get the LS2 into place. So I put the jack under the diff, lifted the wheels up, stacked two tyres high under the back, one tyre high under the front, got the LS on the creeper, and then jacked the front up, and then slid the whole lot underneath, and then let the truck back down bit by bit. I've had to take the headers off and the spark plug wires, and that is about it. Oh, and the dipstick, sorry. So the dipstick hangs out a fair bit off to the side. I'm going to have to organise that in a minute, or later on. So headers off, wires off, lift it up from the bottom. Now I've got this bar in here, which is about at the right height. So the spigot bearing is about in line with the top of the chassis rail, which is pretty cool. The headers do fit the LS3 ones or LS2 ones, but they hit the flange just here, so I'm going to have to cut and extend them. So I borrowed this one off of Dale. It's been relieved heaps for a steering shaft or something, so I don't need to be that crazy, but I just need the flange further away from here. So they fit, which is good. And then the spark plug leads will go back on, obviously. There's no real issue there. Filling it with oil is going to be interesting because the filler is just there under the feet, and checking the oil is going to be interesting, but I think it's going to be a take the seat out whenever you want to work on it kind of job. But that's okay. So next up, I've just got the rubber engine mounts off of one of Dale's cars. So he said they're a VT or a VX rubber engine mount. So they actually hang just below the chassis. Looks quite bad on camera, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to have to build something off of here to hold those. That needs to be bolted onto the chassis, so I can unbolt it and drop the engine from the bottom. So that's the next problem. The front of the engine is held up with a ratchet strap at the moment, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's working for now. So let's come around this side. You can see the orange ratchet strap that's holding the front up, and you can see how far the engine sits out from the back of the cab. So barely at all, really. And come in here, got a nice bit of clearance to that rail across the front, and a fair bit of room, really, in the front here. So once the seat comes out, I'll be able to get to everything on the engine, and I'm probably going to have to cut this anyway to make it all nice and make a nice floor for it. And we were thinking about moving the seat forwards a little bit, so maybe I can make it so the seat tilts or something like that, or just easy unbolt, work it out. It's only 4 bolts anyway, so I might just bolt it in properly and then deal with it later, but we're going to move it forwards a little bit. So just need to get an air filter in there, which is going to be pretty easy, and run the radiator lines out the back, which is going to be a little bit of pain, and mount a radiator over here somewhere. So that's pretty much it for today. Just been a lot of back and forth trying to get this thing into the right place. But I'll go around the front and show you how it looks. So the original radiator was in the back of this vent here, which the new one's not going to fit obviously. And then you can see the LS. And then underneath, pretty high. So we should be okay. I'll put some kind of bash bar or sump underneath the, bash bar or plate underneath the sump, so that it doesn't smash itself to pieces. And then we just got some engine mounts, and then we'll get the trans on and make a trans mount. So it's all coming together. It's just a slow process. Pretty happy with it so far though. We've got the 3-inch cab lift, 2-inch suspension lift, and 2-inch taller tyres on the bottom, so 4 inches tall overall, 2 inches on either side obviously. So 7 inches lift, LS2, Turbo 400 going to be in there somewhere, the world's smallest drive shaft, and drum brakes all round. So that's probably it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.